And we're live today. I'm here with Steven Shedletsky, head of brand experience and lead igniter at Simon Sinek Incorporated. Good to be with you, Simon.
Simon,
Steven, oh
Steven,
man, I knew I
all
was going to
good.
make some mistake. I
That's
jinxed
only
myself
the
earlier.
that's only the third time it's happened today.
Well,
Uh,
I'll call you Shed then from
there
now
you go.
on.
There you go.
Awesome. So,
Anytime you say lead igniter, I feel like a David Copperfield, boom.
awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Simon Sinek work, how the pivot that you had to make with COVID or the pandemic, and
Yeah.
I'm always, we definitely spent a lot of time doing that, and lots of folks in our facilitation community have struggled with it. So I love these stories around how people adapted, and you took an 8-hour one day in person, get on planes, jump in the room kind of workshop, and converted that to live online, highly interactive. So curious about that transition and what that looks like.
Yeah. So previous to March, the vast majority of our business and what we offered was hop on a plane, hop in a room, do a keynote, do a panel, do a Q&A, or do a workshop. And obviously that disappeared in a mere matter of 3 days as the world changed before our eyes. And I think virtual is here to stay. I mean, even as the world begins to open more and more, I think we'll see executive leadership team offsites, and in time, these 3,000 to 5,000 person conferences might resume, but maybe not. And I think we need to prepare for a world in which they may not, or it could even be a mix or even blended. And so when COVID hit, I mean, the vast majority of our revenues disappeared. So we had a runway. Simon and our leadership team did something quite genius. I'm biased, but did something quite genius. So mid-March, Simon got our team together on a Monday for our usual team meeting. We call it huddle. And he said, okay, guys, you have 48 hours. Everyone needs to come to our meeting on Wednesday, our strategy meeting, full team, with 15 ideas, 15. He said, not 5, because if it's 5, it'll be the same as mine. And they're not going to be that great or that innovative. I need everyone to come up with 15. I know that some of you are creative idea types and other of you are executors, operators. If you don't have ideas, match up with somebody else, but you have to each get, 15. And he said, also categorize them as green, yellow, red. Green means we can do it next week or soon. Yellow, some weeks. Red, months. He was clear on what financial runway we needed to create in order for everyone to keep jobs. And we got to work and we facilitated this amazing meeting. It was 90 minutes. He set great parameters. He said, this is not about ego or credit. If someone has your idea, don't say, oh, I also had that idea. Only add on to it if there's something more you can add to it. And we compiled everyone's ideas. It wasn't a democracy. Our leadership team made the strategic choices on which ones we were going to pursue and when. We assembled small teams and went off to the races. And the biggest thing has been our live online classes. And we started with a 2-hour class called Start With Why. And we used to, as you said, Douglas, we used to have an 8-hour, fully immersive, like 9 to 4, exhausted by the end of it because it was kind of more designed for extroverts than introverts. But we would help you work in a group of 3 people to find and articulate your individual why statement. And the trick with our why is we cannot be objective with ourselves. So we need the objective perspective of another to point out our strengths and what we care about, because we just take it for granted. Like I write emails and social media posts in the shower. I think everyone does this. And when people are like, no, man, like that's nuts. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's a strength. But like, I still don't believe you if you don't do it, because my experience is my reality. My perception is my reality. So Simon said it needs to get down to 1 hour, he said. I'm like, dude, 8 hours to 1, like I can't do it. We're going to do full room and breakouts. I can't have people work in groups of 3. Fine, we'll do it in groups of 2, which is good. So we have 50 breakout rooms going with people matched up. We have a Zoom producer. And I said to him, I can get it down to 4 hours. And he goes, 1. I'm like, it's got to be 4. He goes, 1. I went back to him. I'm like, all right, I found a way that I can do it in 2. And he went, perfect. And so we now do it in 2 hours, and we add an additional 15 minutes of Q&A for people who want to stick around. And it's action packed, but like it works and it's great. And we have people put the results in the end in the chat, and it's a jump start, like it's quick, but we give people the process. They get a first draft of their individual why, and they're better yet equipped with more tools and ways that they can continue the work thereafter if they want.
So what do you think what was that aha moment that allowed you to move from the 4 to the 2? I'm curious, like, was there a mechanic thing? Like, content aside, like, was there a mechanical thing that you're like, oh, this is the trick?
So I think there were a couple things. One, I think that I convinced myself that it needed to be groups of 3 rather than groups of 2. So, I mean, once you do groups of 2, like if I do it in groups of 3 now, it'll be 2.5 or 3 hours. But if I do it in groups of 2, I can get it down to 2.
Interesting. So I would assume the opposite would be true, because with groups of 2, you have more groups, which takes more share out time. What's the meeting math that makes the 2s go faster?
So the method to the madness is there's no full group sharing.
Yeah.
We do, hey, welcome. Here's where we're going. Here's some content. Questions? Great. Here's how you find your why. We do a full room demo showing people the process it takes, because to find your why, you actually have to go to your past. It's a data finding pattern theme thing. You go to your past when have you been your best or your worst, in which you play opposite game. And you share these stories from your past. This is how you find your why as an individual or an organization. It's moments of pride. And then you share those. And as you share 2, 3, 4, 5 of them and more, the patterns are hard not to see. And then you reflect those patterns back and put it into a why statement, which is comprised of a contribution, our top strength, and our impact, what we care most about creating for ourselves and others in the world. It's why our why fulfills us. And so we don't do full group share. Our full group share at the end, we utilize chat. So we do a why swarm. Everyone types in their current draft of their own why. We do a little bit of coaching based on just, because there are some academic rules of a good why statement. Like if you have I, me, or my, we like to shift that to we, us, or together, because it's not about you, it's about service. And our why is the reason anyone would be attracted to our leadership. And then, in our extra time, or if we finish on time, we always finish on time, but sometimes we do some coaching after.
Yeah.
We then, use the raise your hand function. People come off mute, they ask a question, or they share their why statement, drop it into chat, and we do some live coaching with them.
I always love to, in the in-person workshops, we always stuck around to pull the flip charts off the walls and like throw away the used stuff or recycle and collect all the pins to reuse them. And people would hang out. Some people would take off, and other people would hang out and ask questions. And it always made cleanup way slower, because you're kind of helping someone while also trying to clean up. But in the virtual space, we always plan on that. It's like schedule 30 minutes at the end, because somebody wants to stick around, and so just like put it in there, call it the cleanup time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now it's just cleanup of content and loose ends rather than pens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, to answer your question head on, I don't think there was like an aha. I just kept on finding ways to make it not bare bones, because it is quite robust. But then the biggest thing is I tested it. I found 2 people who didn't know each other, and I took them through the experience on Zoom, and saw if it worked, and it worked.
Yeah, that's great. And it does make sense from a workshop math. If we got a third person in there, it takes longer, because each person has to answer the questions. And so if you're really trying to compress that time, groups of 2 are going to be a little faster.
Yeah. Now there is a risk. There's a risk of tech, and there's a risk of English not as a first language, or to people who don't have the first language. So one of the things we do is we offer people to rename themselves if they have a mother tongue other than English. And we'll try to put 2 Spanish speakers together, or 2 German speakers together. We don't always get it right, but we use that as an option. And sometimes you just get someone who's not as willing or as good of a listener. And so, there is a risk that the dependency on the success of the workshop for you as an individual is who you get paired with. But it's a reasonable enough price that people can come back and do it once, or we equip them with the process such that they can tap into our community thereafter and find someone who's willing to help them go through the experience.
That's great. And another thing we chatted about in the pre-show chat was this idea. Well, I guess you guys call them nested whys, and my book Magical Meetings is about to come out, and we talk a lot about this idea of the importance of purpose when it comes to meetings, because often people will not be clear on why we're gathering, and it's a huge waste of time if someone's coming in spending the first half of the meeting just trying to understand, get the lay of the land and go, oh, I see what we're doing, then then it's not great. And then you also mentioned this notion of the beat on the street and the importance of leadership. The bigger a company gets and the more senior individuals get, the more disconnected they get from that micro why. Right.
Sure.
They might be clear on the macro, like the why of the company, the passion, our purpose. But as far as those individual little things happening, it's like we miss out on that. And so I'm curious, like what tactics you have, advice you have for folks to just be considerate of that, or anecdotes to some of those issues.
Yeah. So a good amount to unpack there, which is great. I mean, first and foremost, if you're not clear on the macro why, I mean, you should start there, because no matter if you have a micro why for a meeting, if you're not clear on the macro why, you're still kind of doomed. Or even if you're clear on the micro why, if people have different macro whys, like Godspeed, but you are not a school of fish swimming together. It's messy. So first and foremost, it serves to have clarity on the macro why. At our company, we have one. It's our founder, Simon's. His why is to inspire people to do what inspires them, so that together each of us can change our world for the better. That's his why. That's our company's why. Our vision, our just cause, what we wish to create in the world, is a more inspired, safe, and fulfilled world. We imagine a world in which the vast majority of people wake up inspired, feel safe wherever they are, and end each day fulfilled by the work that they do. Now, I haven't just memorized those words. Those words mean something to me. I can see what that world looks like for me, for my colleagues, for my clients, for my friends, for my family, for my kids. So that's the macro why. We're good there. But then to your point, it does, sometimes that macro why is so big that you're like, that's great. And like, I'm on the right bus, but like in the seat that I'm in, what the heck is my job, and how can I advance that in accounting or in sales or in the custodial arts, if you want to go there? Like, how is my work connected to that? And that it behooves us to make a connection. On the custodial arts example, I mean, there's the fable, I believe it's true, of the custodian at NASA in the JFK era who loved coming to work. And it's like, dude, you're a janitor. And he's like, yeah, but do you realize that I'm connected to the work that we're doing? And we're like, huh? He's like, I'm helping to get a human being on the moon and come back and return safe. And it's like, how are you doing that, dude? You clean the halls and the toilets. He goes, when do you come up with your best ideas? He's like, I ensure that you can walk to the halls, go to the washroom, go to your car, whatever it might be, and that when you come out, there isn't toilet paper on your foot. Because if there's toilet paper on your foot, the astronauts, scientists, engineers, etc., who are the ones that are going to help us get there, they won't be able to. That's my job. Like, cool. That is nested wise. In the seat and the role that he's in and the department that he's in, he can see the connection between his or her own work and that of the overarching macro why. And so it does behoove us to get granular and not take for granted. Like the number of times I've spoken with people, particularly who are operators, and like, oh, we have to repeat that stuff again. And it's like, yeah, like you do. It's like, this is our overarching why. This is what we're about. This is where we're going. And this is how this specific meeting is going to help us get there. We all good on that. Great. Now let's begin, And then the other thing around, disconnection is, I think, leadership is tough. Like, it's just tough. And I think it's even harder in this remote first world we're in right now. Not impossible, but hard. And when it comes to Slack or text or email or Asana or Monday.com and all these things, text is good for transaction it is not good for collaboration. Like I despise when people say, let's collaborate asynchronously in a Google Doc, but not meet or hop on. And like I'm all for like, clear what you're doing, clear what I'm doing. Great. Let's split, sprint, and come back. I'm good with that. But collaboration has to happen like this, where it's like, wait, what do you mean by that? You know? And so anytime, you know, it's like, here's the report you requested. When it goes to what did you think about that report or how can I improve it, that's a conversation. Or if it's I was really hurt in the meeting when you did this, this, and this, that's a conversation. We still need to pick up the phone. We still need to hop on Zoom, see each other's faces, hear each other's tone of voice, and have the tough conversations that are leadership. They're human conversations. And the more senior we get, two things happen. A, our whisper is a shout. Everyone's watching us. If you know call a CEO's office and the CEO says to his or her assistant, tell them I'm not here. You've just said everyone can lie in this organization. A whisper is a shout. And the more senior you get, typically the further away you get from the truth. And so we need to create feedback mechanisms and loops, whether it's surveys, whether it's calling up that you know, younger high potential leader saying, hey, how did I just come across in that meeting? Like, can you give me feedback, as I trust you and I really care about your feedback and what you're hearing from others, because others, you know, won't give me the truth because they just give me deference. You know, we need that feedback loop, and we need to listen. You know, if you don't like the feedback your people are giving you, that's on you. It's not on them.
You know, the feedback's critical. And I was actually thinking about the word feedback when you were talking about the importance of real-time collaboration, because it's the feedback loop, right? Like we get and it's the bandwidth of that feedback, right? It's like we get it faster because it's real time and it's more pure, it's more direct versus being filtered through kind of this text pipe. And I think too, a lot of it has to do with how much capital we built up. Like if you and I have had lots of conversations about this thing, then iterating on the Google Doc is going to be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Right. But if all we're using is the Google Doc and we haven't gotten to some of that alignment, it's going to be a little more rocky. So I think it's like, to me, it's like how much of that capital you're expending, how further away we're getting in our alignment before needing to come back for something a little more high bandwidth.
You're bang on. Yeah, I mean, this is why relationship matters. Relationship is the foundation of accomplishment. So we can't put two of the most talented people together and say, you're now working together, make a product. It's like, you know, that's why we have team building. Because it turns out, you know, like if we're working on a project and we don't have a relationship and there's something you're doing that's bugging me or I think is getting in the way, do I have enough social capital to be like, hey man, like, I think there's a better way to do this, which is a risk. Like it takes courage for me to build that up and share. So
absolutely. Well, we're definitely we're kind of a little over time, but I wanted to make sure that we got to this question here we had from the audience. I think she was saying that she missed the beginning, and she was asking, was this for a client group or opening to the public? And I believe she's asking about the 2-hour redesign, and it sounds like it was to the public if you were having people with different languages connecting and stuff.
The answer is yes. so we first launched it to the public, and we also do private client sessions with it as well. But first, it was launched to the public.
And look, she also dropped in this really insightful comment around asynchronous being about recycling, whereas dialogue can create the new. So that's great. Yeah, it's kind of to that point around you're recycling the alignment we've already gotten or the stuff we've already. It definitely is less likely to pull in the novel, right? We're probably going to just have the ordinary. So yeah, thanks for that comment. Excellent. Well, Shed, it's been great having you, and it was a fun chat. I hope this is the beginning of many more, and there's it was just a total pleasure. Thanks a bunch.
Awesome. Likewise, and congrats on the launch of your book. That's great.
Thank you.